Hey, Boaz here with Next Pittsburgh. We're here in East Liberty at the AAA building, and I'm not coming to, get a map for a road trip or anything. We're coming to learn about the crazy history of this building, and to tell us about it is Jim Garrity, who's the Director of Public Affairs at AAA.
Hey, thanks for coming to visit our building, our big, beautiful, historic building. We're happy to have you here. If you need a map by the time you leave, though, let us know. We can take care of it.
Well, let's go inside. Let's start the tour. Oh, thank you. So, honestly, I didn't know that AAA was here for a while, but I've always admired this building because it has that crazy glass dome on top.
6, 7 years ago when I came in for my first job interview, this is the first thing I saw walking in the door, and it almost took my breath away. And even still to this day, I never get tired of this view. This is the historic beauty of Motor Square Garden. And
Oh, wow. So Motor Square Garden, is that the name of the building?
Motor Square Garden is the name of the building, right? So as you can see here, broke ground for construction in 1898, opened 2 years later. The original concept was East Liberty was slated to be subdevelopments, and they said, well, we need a grocery outlet. The subdevelopment didn't quite pan out the way that they thought it would, but it still ended up being the Liberty Market House for 15 years. Then in moves the Pittsburgh Automotive Association, and they bring in...
That's wild that it has these automotive roots and that you're here 100 years later.
Very much so, and there is that tie-in, definitely, right? So John Bell moves in 1920, turns Motor Square Garden into a boxing arena. And actually right back here, where our branch currently is where you would have had your boxing arena. And you would have had, kind of where we're sitting in back, all the seats, and as you look up, definitely that's where you're going to see a lot more of people who would be looking down and in. Not just...
So it would have been down in this basement area was the box.
That's it, right here. It would have been any Pittsburgh, I guess, boxing enthusiast may remember Harry Greb, who was the Pittsburgh Whirlwind, fighting here in his prime. Pitt basketball played here for a short period of time. And then in 1929, we held the 30th annual Pittsburgh Auto Show here. So the dome itself on the exterior is copper, but the ceiling wood slats, you can see the ceiling is made of these kind of baby bluish wood slats, and that's all original things that we've had to really kind of keep an eye on and maintain over the years. In a way, it kind of goes to the credit of buildings that were built in that era, just so solid and sturdy. It's such a foundationally sound building.
Yeah.
As you move all the way through the 30s, things like dog shows, dance marathons, more wrestling.
Oh my gosh, wrestling matches, minor boxing matches, food and equipment fairs, roller skating, and the annual auto show. Oh, a beer garden.
I was trying to find more info on that, and I'm still looking for that, but I want to know more about it. It had a temporary period serving as a beer garden for the neighborhood. And then it became a car dealership. They moved in here, and they used all 3 floors to sell cars. So, yeah.
Do you drive cars in? Are there like special entrances?
There used to be. I mean, if you look at the outside of the building, you can see some of the places where maybe there used to be ramps. The challenge with a building so old is finding all the proof of all that. And a lot of the times you have to look and say, well, that looks like that might have been where the cars would have been coming in. But yeah, from 1939 all the way through to the mid to late 80s is when it was a car dealership. In fact, we still have members who come in and they say, I remember buying a car here. But in between that and between AAA moving in the early 1990s, it was an upscale mall. And that project didn't quite pan out. We moved in 1992, and it's been AAA ever since.
So coming up this escalator, you really do get some mall vibes.
Yes, right? So anywhere you see these double doors, you should assume there was a storefront of some kind. That's a lot of what you're seeing here is the facade of what used to be, for a brief period of time, that higher-end shopping mall. We moved in, we kept a lot of that, but then what we did is we turned most of it into office space. This is the regional headquarters for our particular AAA, which covers parts of 5 states.
Yeah, well, let's stroll around this former mall. I guess imagine passing where like some sort of luggage store, a jewelry store.
Maybe, yeah, perhaps high-end jewelry over here. At some point, this was a restaurant.
Okay, so in this conference room, we can sort of see a little bit of what was some sort of fancy store that wanted some fancy tile work.
Stores came in here, the high-end stores, jewelry and so forth. They wanted nice flooring installed. So we were able to maintain some of that as we went through our retrofitting and our construction over the years. And I think under a lot of the carpet, you would find similar types of marbling flooring. And then also, going back to what we were originally saying, imagine the view from up here if you're sitting on a slope looking inward at what would have been, let's say, the boxing arena or maybe a Pitt basketball game or something of that nature. If you have that history, it is fun to kind of stand back and say, what would this have looked like? How would my view have been from up here of one of those very famous prize fights?
Okay, so we popped outside for a sec to point out one other thing.
So, the smokestack, again, one of the original components of the building, you could see where lightning struck it several years back. The brick that's climbing there that is not the same color as the other brick, that would have been brick that popped off when the lightning hit, right? So,
The bricks just like flew off,
yeah, the bricks came off, had to be replaced.
and those little, I don't know, decorations and those columns
Yeah,
with
isn't
I mean, I guess they're like sort of fruits and vegetables. I wonder if that's sort of like, inviting you into what was then essentially a market.
Yeah, and I think a snapshot in time of when the building itself was built, because that would have been built when the building itself was. Isn't that beautiful, though?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool.
It's one of those buildings that I think a lot of Pittsburghers hear the name and they say, "Oh, I remember Motor Square Garden," and because it's had a variety of functions over the year. There's a lot of lore that comes along with that.
Gosh, well, Jim, thanks so much for the tour. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for coming and sharing and checking out our beautiful building. We're very, very proud to be here.